with project-based learning and instruction. We have what I would argue is the best PPE for educators who are working within the pandemic of state-sanctioned violence. We have this tool that we can use to be able to mask a lot of the deficiencies of the existing pedagogy. We can engage in projects with young folks where they are doing things and creating things. But I want to implore us that in this moment, there is no project that we can create if it is not first focused on the needs of young people, if they're not defining for us the type of projects that they need, if the projects that young folks are creating are not addressing racism, they're not addressing their realities and their experiences, they're not speaking truth to power about how they're being harmed by this moment, by how they're trying to still make sense of this moment, that we're not doing the work. Project-based learning is an anchor for social justice work at its very best. And if you're doing project-based learning without a focus on anti-racism in your pedagogy, then I would argue that you might as well be doing the same kind of pedagogies that other folks are doing. And digital project-based learning is also important. How are you utilizing social media as a way to be able to garner communities with young people where they can invite their peers to engage in dialogue and speak truth to power? How are you utilizing TikTok as a way for them to be able to create a new page and a whole new project where they can bring a cadre of folks together to not just advocate for their experiences, but also address race and racism and how they're being impacted by it? How are educators thinking about project-based learning, not just as a random project that we're doing, but looking at ourselves as a project to create? And I would argue that project-based learning is not just about what you do, it's also about what you deconstruct, what you reimagine, and what you reconstruct. And that trifecta of first deconstructing existing norms, reimagining what a future could be, and then doing the work to make something that speaks to the imagination, that the imagination is a first step, but the activation of the imagination through the creation of a project is the final frontier. That is the work. And look at yourself, guys, and deconstruct you. How have I been complicit in race-based practices that do not allow all young people to come alive? How have I been utilizing the curriculum as a baton that I swing at young folks to harm them? How are my state standards that I am following to a T impeding my ability to be the kind of person that stands in the gap for young folks and makes them alive? And when you're creating yourself as a project, I would make the argument that you are deconstructing yourself as just an educator. You're imagining new possibilities for young folks and for yourself. And then you're building yourself back up to be not just a pedagogue, but a person that uses their pedagogy as protest. Project-based learning is pedagogy for emancipation. Project-based pedagogy educators utilize their work as protest. You might not be able to march, but you can use the work that you do every day with young people as an opportunity to transform the world. And although short, and although succinct, that small concept of reimagining ourselves, reimagining our pedagogy, and nesting our projects and how we build ourselves up and how we allow young folks to be able to build projects that speak to their truths and their authenticities and their realities is the final frontier of the work.